Hello and welcome to the wrap. This is the show wrapping up all things from last week. Zwift, it's racing, events, tech, fashion. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. It is Thursday, June 8th, and this is episode number 47. It is the year 2023, I think, still. Yep, that's right. I am Nathan Guerra, and Anna Russel is sat next to me virtually coming out of New Zealand. I'm in Wisconsin of the United States. It is summer and 71 degrees Fahrenheit. And Anna, it is winter. And how cold is it there? Is it even cold? Does it get cold in New Zealand?
You're going to laugh. So for me, it was really cold this week. And I think it was like 9 degrees C. So I don't know what that is Fahrenheit.
That's like short sleeve weather when it starts getting warmer here. Like when it starts getting warm here. Hold on a second. I got to do a quick little 9C to Fahrenheit to F. You just to F. Oh my gosh.
Here we go.
48. Yeah, like that. Okay.
That's cold.
You can still race your bike in that in a long sleeve for sure. Yeah. Like we do Iceman and it can get down to almost 0 in Iceman. I don't like that race at all, but 48, I can go outside in that. Like just barely. It better not be raining though. It better not be raining.
Okay, well, when we get on to what we did this week, I hit rain and cold for my gravel ride. So
right on. All right, well, what do we got in the wrap this week? Well, this is a big one. IndieVelo released for beta. Is this the first real race competitor to Zwift when it comes to another platform? For a discussion, we're going to be talking about how the IOC defines a sport. And Anna's got some cool information about that specifically in this space. And then what's up with the coffee stop? A little bit of branding on there. That was really interesting to me because they changed it up real quickly. We also have an awesome guest. Holly Bergin is here. She did, how many is it, Anna?
15.
15 team time trials, WTRL team time trials in one day. That is a record as far as we know. And then, of course, we do have our fashion with the Pride Kit Zwift gearing in the garage, it looks like. And we'll be talking about events that are coming up in the community. So, but as usual, we talk about what we have been up to for the last week. What's going on in your life, Anna, when it comes to bikes?
Okay. Oh, bikes. Okay, that's okay. I won't talk about the running then. So,
okay, go ahead. You can talk about running. I guess this is, running is in Zwift.
For the running. Yes, I went for a gravel ride, and it was cold for me and a bit rainy, and I got my first gravel puncture. So I had to kind of figure that out with my riding friend, and we're sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to call my husband. I want to figure this out myself. So I end up having to call him after like a little bit because we couldn't really figure it out, but we fixed it. But during that time, pretty much like froze, like my hands, you can't feel the tips of your fingers and then your toes are numb. So I pretty much got home and then bought like a jacket because I wasn't wearing a riding jacket. I was just wearing my like running like thermal top,
Yeah.
It wasn't a jacket. I didn't have little like booties on my feet. I didn't have really like full finger gloves.
You ever hear that saying? Now, I don't necessarily agree with this saying because there's just weather that's just, but okay. I kind of agree with it. Because people, you can go out in the worst of the worst of the worst and survive. I don't know if the point is just surviving when you go out, but there isn't any bad weather. There's just bad clothing. There's just bad preparation, right? So
I totally agree with that. My coach used to tell me that all the time. So I have actually prepared and bought gear, like proper gear, so that I don't have that again. Because it was all sweet until we got the puncture, and then it was just a nightmare. But then, unfortunately, and I haven't actually said this, I can see a few people watching. I had a scan, so I had like a lump. Oh, this is going very like personal, isn't it? I had a lump that I was getting a bit worried about. Lumps are never good. Kind of in my groin area. Got a scan for it.
We're getting real personal.
I know. Got a scan on it. Hasn't been like a problem, but it turns out I've got a femoral hernia.
So, whoa! Talk about pushing herself, like Anna. Like we're always talking about chill out. You gotta maybe take some rest days. Like.
So that was that's like a bit of a bugger because there is, and people will probably disagree, but I listen to my doctor I always go with one person I trust. I really trust my doctor. So you can't really not have surgery. Like, you've got to get it fixed up, because this one's got this risk of like twisting and
especially
really bad.
with you, especially with how much activity that you do. Yeah. I think.
Oh, I know. So no 65-kilometer run. I did say, like, could I go do the 65K run? And she's like, how remote is it? I was like, it's pretty remote. She's like, I really wouldn't probably do that. I think you should probably have surgery in the next 2 weeks. So anyway, there we go. Got to get that done.
Sorry to hear that, Anna. It's not that bad of a surgery, though, from what I understand.
I think it's right.
It's pretty chill. So,
compared to like childbirth and all that, I think it's going to be a bit of a breeze. So, so that'll probably put me more into base phase. I'll be way easier for some of the winter. So there we go.
Sometimes the body has things happen, like, because it's going, hey, you gotta chill out. Like there's, I always get this when when I go into base phase, actually, is when I usually get it. Like, I'm like, all right, this year's gonna be the year I really lay down the best foundation. And then I ramp up the hours way too fast. And I always get sick around January this day, like almost to the day. And I'm always like, yeah, it's just because the flu's going around or whatever. But like, you look back, you're like, maybe it's the freaking hours you just stacked on yourself over and over and over again. And eventually I got to back off a little bit, and then it like resets my whole training a little bit. And then, okay, this time I'm going to maybe ease in. And then by February, I kind of get into my real base again, because I always overdo. So yeah, that's a great way to look at it, Anna, is like, it's resetting you. It's forcing you to reset a little bit more, and you'll come back even stronger. So, there's actually people are like all over this chat about you and gravel though, and like whether or not you're using tubeless. And
I'll explain. Can I just explain what it is I have? So I'm not going to use any of the proper terms here. So my tire.
You're just going to confuse everyone? Like
No. So I think my tire has no tube in it. So it was whatever that's called. Tubeless. So when I got the puncture, there was like this white fluid.
Sealant?
Sealant went to the puncture. I think the sealant had a problem because its consistency was like water, and it was just spurting out of the puncture. So that was the problem I had, is it didn't seal it. But then, and I think this is a good call on my husband, I think when he set up my bike, was the tire wasn't super glued onto the rim, so I could easily flick it off. And then I put a tube into underneath.
Yep.
And then had a gas canister and just blew up the tube. So now there was a tube in there.
Yeah, the CO2.
Yeah, CO2.
Yeah, gas canister.
So
you had a gas can. Wait, you're putting fuel in your bike? Is this a cheater bike? Like, what's going on?
So, just like
that was the best term so far out of all of them. Oh my gosh, white fluid, liquidy, sprayed out everywhere. You seal it.
God, I know. Sealant. Yeah, there was this white stuff. And Amy's coming and saying the sealant won't seal a puncture hole. You need a plug. So I had a plug. I had a Dyna plug, but the hole was so tiny that I couldn't jam the
what kind of sealant? It sounds like you're using stands, which usually if it's a good stand sealant, it should. I don't know what kind of sealant you guys are using, but in the mountain bike world, if your sealant didn't work, it's not good sealant. Like, so anyways, but.
So we're getting that fixed, yes.
So tubeless, you are set up tubeless.
Is that a question? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what they were asking. Are you set up tubeless and whatever?
Well, I don't know.
Sure, with the gravel.
This is where I get confused. So yeah, it's tubeless. Like there was no tube in there, but now there is a tube in there.
Yeah, so now you put a tube in for now. But are you gonna go back to tubeless, or you're like, no way, I'm gonna stay with the tube?
Oh no, I guess I just take the tube out and put new sealant in and patch the hole.
You might have to. Yeah, you can patch the hole. There's a lot of different things you could do. Is patch that tire and then because you added weight to your setup now on a tire that's set up to be tubeless. So like, why would you leave the tube in? But yeah, anyways, see what hubby says about it. Probably.
The end of the story, I think, is that the sealant was compromised. So the hole was too small for a dyno plug, but the sealant, I think, had lost its whatever it needed to do. Matt Gardner,
yes. I love it. I love it that he came in. So Matt Gardner from Stars No Pins comes into the chat and says, Anna equals indoor specialist. And, I kind of have to agree with that one now we're talking about the gas canister that she takes for her to pump her tires up in a spot of bother. Oh, my God.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, fixed in the end, and I rode out. I mean, I had hypothermia because I had none of the proper gear. So, but yes, fixed, and I think I'm good to go.
There was someone in some chat somewhere. I don't know. I was looking to get into an online argument. It seemed like about tubeless or something. Like somebody said a comment or a question. I got a little snarky, just for fun. Like I was kind of playing with it, and they were like, "Well, it's tubeless or not tubeless?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, who? And then I said, mountain bikers seem to be 5 to 10 years ahead of the entirety of all the technology in this space a lot of times, especially when it comes to rolling resistance, it feels like. And I think because there's so many obstacles that you need to go. Now, I'm not talking about downhill mountain bikers, everybody. Like, I'm talking about cross-country mountain bikers are like, super weight weenies, the whole idea of making sure that the bike is rolling as fast as possible. Like we've been tubeless on fatter tires like 5 to 10 years ahead of everybody else. And I think it's because we're like, oh my gosh, we have to go fast in this crazy terrain. How do we make it happen? And like push things forward. And there's roadies still out here like, I don't know, like, I'm going to ride like thin little tires with a tube in it. And I'm like, how are you? What? Where do you live in the world of cycling? Anyways, I just think mountain bikers pushed it. I'm going to say that, like, for sure, to the right. Like, I've been riding tubeless since 2008, 2009, and I think, like, at that point, I literally wouldn't ride the bike if it wasn't tubeless. Like, I'm not riding that. Like, there's so much of an advantage and gain from riding tubeless that, like, what do you even, Like, and then it took the roadies like 10 years to even come over. And now they're like, oh, you get all these like rolling resistance calculations and science with these YouTube getting millions of hits. And it's like this huge discovery. And it's like, no, it's not really like what we've been doing this a long time, dude. And then the mountain bike. And then this weekend, I was asking one of my buddies I race with, like, after the race, I was like, so what do you think about Unbound and whatever? And And he's like, it's kind of a 90s mountain bike. Like, that's what's going on. It's like 90s mountain biking.
Are we going to weigh in on Unbound? I'm like the worst person.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear it. No, seriously, let's go.
Okay.
I'd love to hear what you have to say about it because that looked gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, and this is from someone who I didn't watch any of the race. I saw like a couple of videos that Amy Mundersev had sent me. I don't know. Like I looked at it and I was like, I'd ride that. Like hike a bike. It's adventurous. Like if I'd flown over and spent all this money to go there and race it, I would expect a full-on race, and I don't know. So that's just my opinion. I'm like, it's a gravel ride. And I feel like with gravel comes some gnarly terrain.
Yeah. And you have here's the thing is I think on top of that, you have a really intense mixture of different personalities and expectations of what cycling is showing up to that space with so many different people and a lot of investment, like you're saying. And so, some of the interviews I saw, some of these pros, they were like, yeah, I just got this whatever bike yesterday who weren't gravel. And it was the first gravel race they were doing because it's really cool to do it. And I was like, and then the gravel is kind of survival, and sometimes like it's not just like go race your bike hard. It's also a survival in the competition kind of a race, and they ran into that in the first 10 to 15 miles. So whoa.
So I kind of see it like the way I look at it differently. I'll give two things here. One is like say with ultra running. You can go do an ultra run where it's really well organized, the course is all marked out, and you just go finish. And if there was parts where the course sent you in the wrong direction or there weren't enough markers, I would be frustrated at that because I've entered that event knowing that's the way it's organized. There's other events where there's navigation and it's a bit more gnarly and you're having to pack survival packs. those ones you go in with that expectation. I guess I just look at Unbound and it's always kind of touted as this extreme, rugged origin of gravel racing. So I kind of just figured that's part of it. Another thing is like the juxtaposition here of what happened at Unbound, and then there was Ironman Hamburg, where a official race vehicle had a head-on collision with a cyclist competing in the race, with people dying. Is the juxtaposition here of something else that could happen in a race. And I look at that and I go, okay, there was some pretty gnarly terrain and some mud. Yeah, it could be frustrating, but there's also an event where people died. So I kind of looked at the juxtaposition of the two and I was like, I know which event I would be more annoyed at,
Yeah. And, even in a mountain bike race, I've had plenty of situations. I remember there's one I will never forget, Sunburst Showdown, like 2007 or something like that. And it rained on the course that was just the perfect course to create the mud that you were stopping every time you rode your bike. And so you just ran this whole section, like completely ran the entire, and like because it was through grass and clay mud. And so the grass and the clay mud and I think that's kind of mud some of Kansas has actually, which then gets in the middle of the bike and there's just nothing you can do. If you ride through it, you're running your bike, and so, I think like the preparedness now that they bring those paint paddles, those little paint sticks.
Yeah.
Like, they bring them with them now so they can get it in the middle of there and get the mud out so you can keep moving, which,
oh my gosh.
I mean, that's the preparedness that you have to have now for it. But, and I'm seeing it is expensive. I mean, now people know what they're in for though. That's the thing is like, if you're doing this and now with all the reports of how it goes down and things, and I think that the organizers might respond to some good feedback. There is some good feedback about certain things, like should there be course markings on this kind of a level of a race at this point? I saw that one and I could take that one to heart a little bit, but the reality of like, it might rain in Kansas and there's a certain kind of mud there. And now is there going to be even innovation to be able to take on that kind of mud? You know what I mean? Is there going to be innovation
that's a good point.
In order, does it push things forward? I mean, and there's guys at the front of the race. I mean, the winner, Kegels, he rode the whole section, it sounds like, or close to it. Like that whole, like he rode it. So there was a part of me, and since he's at heart, since he's a mountain biker and the spirit of gravel is actually mountain bikes, just so you know, like I was like, there were sections. So I raced those guys at the Lifetime Grand Prix at the Schwamagan, and I rode tons of sections. Schwamagan was a mud race. And there were dudes falling off their bikes, running their bikes. I was like, why are you guys running? See you later. Like, and the mountain bike side of me came. So I'm kind of like, did the mountain bikers do a little better through these sections? Or do you guys know how to ride your bikes? Is that what the problem is a little bit? So I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little bit.
Oh, uh-oh. You're going to get controversial now, Nathan.
All right, what have I been up to? I got to do, we're really good.
Yeah, oh my God, are we still only there? Oh, geez.
What have I been up to? So go check out visioncycling.team, actually, everybody. We're doing news reports on there. Gabby's doing an amazing job because I haven't had time. I've been working pretty full gas the last 2 weeks almost, and on top of training, etc. But so I'm going to try and get some race reports up. But we raced this weekend, Wars number 3. And what was really kind of cool and also like row is Cole House, who I think he won one of the classic races back in the day, one of the junior ones over in Europe. He raced with Cadell on BMC back in the day. So I mean, he as a junior, he got picked up really, really quick. And then I don't know why he didn't continue on down that pathway, but he's extremely talented, local, actually Native American cyclist. One of the first of the same tribe, I believe, is Shayna Paunos. But anyway, so he all of a sudden is next to me at the start line, and he hadn't been in that great of shape. I think he took 10th place, like 10 minutes back at the first one, and I was like, okay, nothing to worry about this year. All of a sudden, I do the first climb, and dude is like there. And I'm like, oh, and I was going, this race, I was going I look down 600 watts every time we come out of anything, right? Like I'm full gas, right? And he is not going anywhere. And he's a lot bigger dude than me, right? Like, and so usually on the climbs, I'm like, okay, but he's an amazing sprinter. He can handle the bike like no other. and he is coming. Like I get like 5-10 seconds, and next thing you know, on a downhill, and I tend to be a really technically savvy rider. He's on my wheel. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude! Now this is gonna be the Cole House Nathan Guerra show because we've battled like this in years past a lot, actually, which was some of the best battles we've had in the Midwest. And he's also with Brian Motter and some of the other guys who have been top level, had tons of battles for some of the big races here. So it's good. It's going to spice up, but I did get him in the end, but I think his fitness is still just coming on. And I won the race this weekend, and Gabriella won this weekend as well. So it was a doubleheader. New kits were released, which is really nice. So it was like it was a great weekend for Team Vision Cycling as well as me and Gabriella. So really great. So that's what I've been up to. The way I relate that to Zwift stuff is I think that the ERG workouts that I've been doing have been extremely helpful for just having that ability to go to the high end. And I essentially raced that race. I promised myself, like, I'm just going. I'm not stopping. And like, I don't know if I've ever been I actually took a KOM that was bottom to top of this climb that's been there since this race has been around. And some of the fastest dudes in the nation have raced it. And I took it by a second. And I remember going to the bottom of that climb, standing up and just going like, I'm looking down and seeing 800 watts and like pushing as much as I possibly could to the very, very top of this thing and not feeling like it hurt and everything. But you know, when you start a climb at the bottom of your climb, you're like, oh, okay, you got it. And you just like sit in and you're like absolute suffering. It was more like I got wings and I'm going to push through and this feels good even though it hurts. And I think I'm getting that from the ERG training that I've been doing. I really, really think it's from the intervals that I've been up to. A few in the chat will actually know exactly what I'm talking about because they've been watching on my Twitch channel. Like, yeah, what the heck are you doing, dude? Oh my gosh! So that's what I've been up to for the week. But so
nice, congrats.
There's a ton of people in chat, I think, that specifically showed up just for this topic. Actually, so
no kidding.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and introduce the IndieVelo release for beta? This is, I don't know if you guys know this, but Anna's been like, I've been riding this other platform here and there for like the last couple months. Everyone's like, what is she talking about? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I always go and try a new platform because I'm always interested, and to be fair, none have stuck. And you will have heard me saying, because to be fair, have not raced on Zwift in a long time now. So I've tried RGT, I've tried my Whoosh, I've tried, I don't know, the other ones out there, Full Gas, Suffer Fit, like I've given them all a shot. I haven't really liked any of them. I obviously really, really like Zwift. I went on IndieVelo and I was like, ooh, straight away, like, okay, this has got some things, So, I mean, if I take you through my little journey, I mean, and there's a crew who were testing it way before I jumped on and gave it a shot. So, the likes of Matt Gardner and Karsten and all of those guys have been on for ages. So I'm speaking from just my experience. But went on, I mean, first thing I noticed was it paired both my smart trainer and my power meter up on the same screen. And I was like, wow, that's quite cool straight away. But man, I'm not going to lie, like the racing is awesome. Like it's just, and I love gamification of Zwift. And I think if they lean more into that will set these two into quite different arenas. But the wind, the draft dynamics, the ability to break away. So I do a race every Wednesday Women's Worlds, and you race bots. Now the people I've been talking to since it's been released in beta are like, oh, bots. I don't like racing bots. I like knowing that, I'm racing humans. I'm like, these bots are different. So like, I don't know the ins and outs of how it's done. I mean, I go read the articles that have come out. I know there's one on Zimmunique, but the bots are like smart bots. So like you go in and like the race yesterday, two of them attacked off the front within the first 5K. And I was like, oh, I need to go get on their wheel. You get on their wheel, they'll attack again, or one will counter. And then some are better on the climbs. Then they're sprinting you off if it's a points race, and they fatigue. So by the end of the race, they're going to be like reducing power a little bit. So, we probably have about 4 women who have been coming each Wednesday. but then we've been having like a group of probably about 80. So it's a big race. And man, like I was Googling the other night, like how do you ride in crosswinds? Because I was finding there was a crosswind part and I was like getting dropped. And yeah, the wind adds a dynamic because there's just new parts to flat courses where you can attack and sit in and do all the stuff. The speed of the pack is significantly lower in my experience. So you can actually break away. Which is really fun. And then there's just like challenges each month, so this month it's a time trial up a climb. So there's a leaderboard and you can post your time, then you get ranked. And then there's like a velodrome, so you can do elimination races and all that. I don't know. It was the first platform I've tried outside of Zwift where I was like, this is a real competitor. I think in the race space, I don't think necessarily in the like group ride and tour of Watopia and space like that, but in the racing, yes.
Yeah, so on a general, so let's before we go into like details of the advantages, disadvantages, the pluses, of what are in the details, let's back it up and like talk about IndieVelo is made, it looks like, from, I'm looking at, so Zamina K put out a post today on this, or maybe it says it was released on the 6th, but a
couple of days ago.
Was it a couple of days ago? Okay. So
yeah.
So and it does a pretty good in-depth. I gotta say, I think Chris was very, like I said this in pre-production, like there's a lot of sunshine and rainbows here. Like, and there's some things that I'm going to bring up that might be the other side of like just try and balance things a little bit here, because I think it is something new and shiny and great. Like, I think that, but the reason why what you just said is for racing space. And why is it, do you think, Anna, that it wouldn't attract perhaps the group ride, jump on, do a workout, or like, what is it that would be missing then in IndieVelo? And I have some ideas about that, but I'm wondering, what do you think? Because you said it first.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's what's missing. I'd just say it obviously is, for me, a racing platform. And their website opens with, imagine if online cycling were an Olympic sport. So I think they're leaning into the racing side. So if I look at myself, they're just even. Like if I'm going on and doing a workout, they have great workouts. Zwift has great workouts. They both have erg mode.
Gotcha.
There's no difference there. So I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I'll go on IndieVelo because the workouts are just so much better. They've kind of created like equal footing to Zwift on like the workout availability. And for the group rides at the moment, like Zwift just has a community of thousands, right? So there's group rides all the time. And you've also got like 7 different worlds, so you can have the difference of terrain. So I think Zwift is ahead, obviously, in that part because they've been around a lot longer. Mm-hmm. But the racing dynamics and the way you can do races and the ownership of races, so you just own and set up your own events in any way that you want. In lots of ways we've talked about, like elimination style, points, scratch race, like all this stuff you can just do yourself. You don't have to rely on an event organizer. Mm-hmm. So I think already IndieVelo's come into the game with a little bit of a foot up in that racing space.
100%. And so
that makes sense.
I think totally. And I think, so here's my feedback then to IndieVelo in the space of like where the masses right now, it seemed like Zwift and like the easy uptake to a lot of people, right, is one, the bots. I think I agree. I like what the bots they go off of critical power. I believe they each one of them has their own critical power in IndieVelo, and that critical power then is used within a like a tank of critical power that it has, and so it can race you, and it'll always use up all of its critical power. It'll always use up all to the end of the race, right? And so you end up getting kind of a real active bot that's going to interact with you in some sort of way, but there's too many of them. That was one feedback from a friend of mine, very prominent person, who was like, there's like, one of the things that might not bring the masses is like, dude, you can't just fake a bunch of people. Like, that's going to turn off a lot of people because a lot of people show up for the social aspect. So like, bring down the number of like, and also I want to know if that's a real person or not. And I don't know if that, like, some of them, like, there's just all these random names on there with country flags, and you're like, I don't know if that's a real person or not a real person. And so that part, there was a, like, okay, but I really like the critical power side with the bots. The other thing is the look of it and the branding. I was going to say this, I really, really like that they can call it IV, like you put an IV in. And I think, like, go towards something like that, because some other feedback from another prominent friend within this space of mine said, yeah, IndieVelo's not helping you. That name, it's just not going to help. Like, independent Velo, it, like, for the general public, it, like, and I this was really honest, like, I got to be super honest. Now, this is all of my negative feedback up front, okay? Like, I got to be super, super honest. I said this to Gabriella, and, like, this is my, like, from a branding perspective, I looked at the logo and I was like, I'm not parking my bike somewhere and that looks like an app I don't want to open. Like, from a branding point of view, that, now this is stuff that, like, a huge company like Zwift has put a ton of money into creating a brand, marketing, like, even the look of Zwift, right? Like, is been really, really refined over time. Super lacking, in my opinion, in the graphical, but it doesn't matter. That's for you, Anna, because you're a racer and because you're there for the function, right? And I saw the other day, now I'm going to swap now, right? Like, because there's more I could go into, but I'm going to swap now to, like, my eyes going, oh, whoa. I was watching a points race on Twitch the other day that immediately had, you took second in the sprint, here's the points, boom, 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 along the side of the, I was like, if ZRL had that, it'd just be like solved freaking every single Facebook post of complaining in a moment.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, whoa. And so that was like the gist of it, like the oof, like that hit hard in a way that was bedrock to my understanding of this space. And so that was pretty cool to see as far as the points racing goes. The interactions, the cornering, and, like, some of the things with the cornering and some of the things with, like, the interactions, they're not really that smooth yet, but I see what they're after, I think. But maybe they're not supposed to feel that way, and that's what you're supposed to get used to. I don't know. Like, I'd have to spend some more time with the platform, but the win thing, that's a thing. I'd agree with you 100% there. Like, that's a huge thing. It definitely took some getting used to like, know about the speed and the opinions about showing watts per kilogram. Like, there was a few opinions in the article coming from George, the owner, or the guy who wrote this stuff, if you read over on Zimini K, that I was like, we'll see how far that stance goes. I don't know. There was a few stances about, like, we'll never do this or we'll never do that. Not maybe the words not never weren't said, but it was kind of like
not a priority.
Priority kind of a thing. And so, but as far as, like, I said it, I think 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5. I don't know. It was like 3 or 4 years ago, right around 2020, 2019. We were on the Zwiftcast, and there was conversation about other platforms. And this topic comes up again and again, that in the gaming space, there were tools that were there. And I said, I think the Zwift need to right now think about writing Zwift 2.0 on a different infrastructure, like on a infrastructure that would be able to be very able to move very quickly within a engine that can just go boom, 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 like, and just do stuff, as well as hire a lot more devs, perhaps, because you don't have to. They can just do something they know. Like, I'm trained in looking for a dev that's really highly trained in Unity. Bam, 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 bam. They all come in. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think the flexibility, the adaptability, the how quickly that IndieVelo can move right now is great. Now, scaling is a big question. Like, Christopher Schwenker brought that up in the article. And, you know, from a grassroots adaptability, strong community, project that George can work with, it seems like, here in his team, there's something here for sure. I would say that in the racing community. Now, one thing that Zwift has talked about, I want to ask you, open this up here with you, Anna, is like, how big is the racing community then? And is this going to be like a proving point about how big it is? And like, if in the back of my head, I'm like, ouch, like segregated, like we already saw the race community segregated in some ways within the Zwift community. Like we already saw things happen that like maybe kind of made it so that it didn't grow that well within the Zwift community in some ways. And so I am like, ouch, is this going to segregate? Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I'm not saying that like, but now with double platforms happening and, oh man, like we need solidarity. And it always, and that whole, I'm going over here because I hate this person. All right, not this person, but like I'm mad, so I'm going over here. Like that, like I've seen some feedback from people like where they've heard it 5 times before where I'm riding CV Arcade, I'm riding there because Zwift. Instead of like, here's all the cool things. This is one of the first times I am hearing like there's a lot of cool things. It's not really about what Zwift does. It's about there's a lot of cool things.
And I've said in chat, like I love both. I love Zwift. I absolutely love it. So there's new kit there, I'm in. There's a new road, I'm in. Like, I love it. So this for me is an indication though, like competition is always good. And I think this is highlighting, and this is just my own personal experience, this is highlighting for me things that have become frustrating in Zwift. I now have another option. So I'll give 2 examples. One is I went on to Zwift, went on to join my pace partner to just do an easy ride, and I just kept getting spawned nowhere near the pace partner. So I was just like, oh, this is annoying. I was like, I'm just going to go ride on IndieVelo and try out their pace partners. So there's a viable alternative now. So I literally left Zwift and went on somewhere else. So that's one example where I've just crossed over, right? And I'll still love Zwift and I'll still go on there, but any kind of barrier now for me personally being on both is there's an alternate. The other one is event organization. So I organize events here for New Zealand and Australia. And like, I'm not going to lie, it can be quite painful. Like James is awesome. Like James Bailey is fantastic. We've had him on the show, but I have to, any change, go through the Zwift events team to get it changed. And yes, as soon as they get it, they make the change and it's awesome and they've been so responsive and they're fantastic, but it's an extra step, right? Whereas we have like M. Nyquist organize our women's worlds. And like she pushed the event 10 minutes later at the drop of a hat. She changed it to a points race. She added in like, how much wind do we want today? And it can all be done immediately as you, the event organizer. There's no like extra step to do something. Now that's another thing. And I've seen it in Zwift's comms, so they know about it. They know it's like a bit of a issue for them is that they need, because I heard it in Eric when he had the podcast, and I was so glad because he said we need to put more into the community's hands because they're the ones who are coming out with all this innovative way to do things, and we need them to have more control. So they know it. They know they need to do that. And like having clubs set up was the first part of that, I think. So I think it's just great all out because there's some competition in this space. How I see it going in the future or how I would like to see it personally, and I have no idea on any of this. So this is just me saying what I would love to see. I would personally love to see racing Zwift just going, hey, I'm not sure we can do elite style racing. I just don't think that's going to happen, but I would kind of like that to happen a little bit. And they've really just put all their effort on making it a community participation experience. Because if the racing, from what I've seen with all the pack dynamics and the sort of the struggle and all the manual work that has to go into like elimination style stuff and all of that, are they better? I just don't know if this would happen, but what happened with, say, Zwift Power, where they said, hey, we're not good at doing all this results, we'll acquire that. And I mean, I don't even know if that's the where these guys are heading, but if Zwift kind of had the separate platform that was just dynamic and fun and really responsive, and it was run by different people, and that was their racing area, and that is there. You're a racer, awesome. That's your area, and you're wanting to come on and have a fun participation gamified experience, this is your area. Mm-hmm. I think Zwift is it's a bit hard for them now when they're trying to straddle both And yeah, that's just my opinion. I don't know. There we go.
I don't think, I mean, okay, so if you read the background here, you can read between the lines a little bit, and maybe that's part of the goals here is that, you know, there's been plenty of talk in the past, like whenever something comes up and it's got a lot of cool stuff, there's been talk in the past of like, okay, which platform was it? Was it Trainer Road? People kept on talking about Zwift acquiring Trainer Road just because it has really, really good workouts that you can just and put in, and so like, could IndieVelo? Because the two things that I said that there are two or three things that I said that are missing there is like marketing, branding, and the look, like, and I'm like, well, I don't know, like you might be onto something there. Like, could some of the things that IndieVelo has written quickly integrate quickly with Zwift? Is that something that, as a huge platform that usually is the leader in this space, you do see acquisitions happen pretty quick in those things. If something does look like it's like, whoa, this has a lot of stuff that we could use. Like I remember, what's the critical power that a lot of people were putting on their streams that shows like, what do you got left in the tank? There was a platform that a lot of people, and we even had him on for an interview, and I can't remember the name exactly. It was like 5 years ago. Somebody in chat will bring it up, and Eric was talking about, wouldn't it be cool if you saw like how much was left in the tank in that Eric Min in that podcast? Yeah. I was like, well, yeah, that guy, there was somebody who was trying to get into this space, and I think there was a little bit of a posturing of like, hey, do you want to buy this data? Do you want to buy this software that takes this data and gives people this information about what they got left in the tank? Zert, thank you very much, Matthew Gardner. I knew one of them would come in. Zert, it was called Zert, and I think it still exists, and some still use it. And it's a pretty cool software that'll tell you a number like of what you got left to give. Like right now you could do this much power for this amount of time, boom, real quickly. And it gives you a critical power profile along that. And it's similar to what those bots actually use in IndieVelo. But anyways, like that was something that Zwift could have got a hold of and done something with, right? And it seems like IndieVelo puts a lot of stuff together in this respect. Now that's a really interesting one. How would that work and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's go. What's this all about with saying, imagine if online cycling were an Olympic sport, and like you have two platforms saying the same thing in that space, though, right? Like Zwift is saying that. Zwift has run the World Championships with the UCI for the last couple of years, and now we have another platform saying we're all about competition. Like we're all about and literally saying like we're going to make this online cycling really an Olympic sport. What do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a bit more to talk about the Olympics. I did just put in the show notes, so we should probably bring in Holly pretty soon. So we'll talk about the Olympics stuff on that side, I think, either after Holly or next week. But when I first went onto the IndieVelo website and I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. They are like, that's it. That's the vision. And I was like, that's ballsy, right? Saying it straight up. It's probably like good to note as well that George, who runs IndieVelo, was on the Zwift verification team for like Zada, basically. So he has seen this evolution of esport, and I kind of loved this because I always have this kind of fear. And I know when I asked Benji last week, like, is it seen as a bit of a joke, and is this actually a legitimate thing? And George has kind of been on the ins of this for a few years, and I know he's got a big cycling sort of pedigree. He's put a lot of time into this, so obviously he sees a future. So this made me feel really positive about it. And again, having competition is always good, always. Like either personally, competition makes you stronger. At a corporate level, competition keeps you on your game, keeps you innovating, trying to keep your customers happy. And I think this is just great for esport in general.
One thing that comes to mind right now is like, does IndieVelo create a space where like they do proof of concept for like what people want? You know what I mean? Like, oh, people are going over there for that. People are going, oh, they want, and that's working. Yeah. And we better, and then all of a sudden they're like focusing on, you know what I mean? Like, I'm wondering if this is going to start create this like arms race a little bit in some areas, or like you said, that'll be really interesting to watch. Like, does it create this arms race for features, and whether or not those features bring or retain users? You know what I mean? Like, that's a huge question to be answered here in the future. And really, like, when it comes down to it, the proof is in the pudding. Like, I don't know if you know that saying. That's something here that like is.
I do.
Okay, cool. The proof is in the pudding. Like, it's like, okay, let's see what happens, and like, it's time to race. And so there's a little analogy here. Then we'll move on here. But there's a little analogy is like, I don't know, like Zwift are this big, like huge moving, I don't know, like is it a carnival fair ship or is it like a battleship? I'm not sure. But like they're like, you know what I mean? And then you've got this really nimble, ready to go. It's got some high tech features on it, little spaceship coming in, and it's like, which one's gonna go? Start line, you know, kind of a thing. And like, what's gonna end up happening between the two in some ways? And maybe I shouldn't pit them in battle against each other, but like, there is a little bit of a race going on here, maybe just in some areas. Maybe they don't see that as competition. Maybe they see it as like, well, all ships rise, you know what I mean? Rising tide here, we'll pull more people in. At the same time, I wouldn't doubt that there's a little bit of like, oh, what's that feature? Oh, okay, that's working. Or, whoa, what's that? Oh, that, you know what I mean? So that'll be interesting to watch and see if suddenly, just like in all the other gaming platforms, the moment that something was really working in Apex, Fortnite did it. And the moment that something was really working in Fortnite, well, that kind of went that way only from what I can tell. Like, oh, Apex did that? Okay, we're going to do that. Oh, this is Apex did that, or PUBG did that, we're going to do that. Like,
well, it's what Apple does, right? Apple watches someone else release something, make all the mistakes, and then refine it.
Are we talking about Vision Pro already now? Are we already like...
But I think... yeah, like if anyone, I may get into streaming again, so I may start streaming my rides on there. But I've got to have this bloody operation, so I probably won't be on there for a little while now. But go check out some streams of it. I think it's worth checking out, and I think it's going to make everyone a little bit better. So there we go.
Right on. All right, no IOC, or what are we doing about IOC?
Let's chat IOC either at the end after Holly, or we'll move it to next week. I got some intel on the upcoming Zwift Olympic series.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, let's bring in our guest. Hollie Burgin, I believe, from Team Coalition. It's great to have her on. And her name to fame now is that she holds a record for doing the most TTTs, I believe, in one day. Most team time trials. 15 team time trials. Hollie Bergin, welcome to the program. Am I correct? You're riding for Team Coalition and that you did do 15 team time trials in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I did them in one day. I do ride for Team Coalition. I couldn't have done it without them, to be honest. And also Dirt and Rhino, they helped me out. I don't know why I did it, to be honest. Yeah.
So I got in touch with you because I saw it on the WTRL page. You got the Order of Merit, which is lovely, from Hollie Burgin. So I think you're to quantify. I think you're you've got the women's record. I know I saw Chris Schwenker come in with someone's done like 22 or something. So you've got the women's record of 15 TTTs. The previous record was 4. So can you just give me the thought here? Were you like, I just want to go out and smash that record? Because you could have just done 5 and got the record. So why 15?
Yeah, but I don't think I'd have done 5, even if I didn't even know there was a record, to be honest. It originally started, I was just going to do 2 because I have the day off. I was going to do 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, but then it just got a bit crazy because people just kept sending me race passes. And I thought, well, I'll just keep doing them. I have to shout out to Chris Hill because he did it with me. He also did 15. And you're right, the male record is 22. And I didn't know there was a record. So the day after, somebody messaged me and said, Holly, I think you've broken the record. And I was like, no way. And then, I did. So it's been a bit weird since then.
So was there like a goal you jumped on the bike that day and you were like, okay, I'm going to do 2 in a row. I saw a post though that something about, looking for more race passes. So like, was this kind of like people sent you
Yeah.
race passes for their team and you just kept on joining? So for those that don't understand how the TTT works, if you want to be a part of a team for a team time trial, the team manager has to send you a race pass so you can enter their teams. And the reason that happens is so that people aren't just randomly signing up with your team to get into the team time trial and then they can just like wreck your race, right? And so your team's race. So you had to have all of these teams throughout the day. You weren't with one team, you were with multiple different teams all day, subbing in on their teams or being a part of their teams. And they just kept on sending you passes because it was this momentum in the community of like, Hollie's doing these TTTs, and everyone wanted you to be a part of it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Some of them I'd never even met or ridden with before. I'd obviously ridden with coalition teams, and I did all of those. And then, but that wasn't 15 because it's summer, so we don't have as many. But the dirt teams were so welcoming, actually, and they'd never, like I said, they'd never ridden me before. I didn't even know who the hell I was, and all of a sudden, I'm just like, yeah, I'll come ride with you guys. Some of those guys did do about 3 or 4, and they were just lovely. That's what's good about the Zwift community, actually, is that everyone's really welcoming, and they didn't even know there'd be a record either. They were just in it because just supportive, and I'm just so lucky that I have so many great Zwift friends and people that just want to ride and have fun. Yeah.
And so if we go into that, and we had Kev from NZRO on the pod a couple of weeks ago, and he did a 24-hour challenge. And I'm intrigued to know, similar question I have for you is, like, how did you fuel this? Like, it seems like it was a little bit impromptu that you kind of decided to do. Did you have to run and go get food during, like, how did you plan the day? I mean, how many hours did this take you as well?
Total riding time, 10 hours, 11 minutes. It was a bit weird because there are gaps in the day when there isn't really any teams. So there was 2 gaps of about 3 hours. Usually there was gaps of about 20 minutes, half an hour. There were 3 back-to-backs. So I had like 2 or 3 minutes. That was really hard. Luckily, I was with Coalition and they knew what I was doing, so they could help me along, especially Tempest, because that was the 3rd team. And I kept having to say, I need a wheel. Can you wait up for me? And they were lovely, and they did. Yeah, so in the 20-minute, half an hour gaps, yeah, I'd go get some food, maybe take a gel. I try to drink a bottle every ride, although I did keep forgetting because it is really hard to remember to drink sometimes, I think, when you're on Zwift. And then just make sure in the 2 to 3 hours I would just rest and change and eat some scrambled egg, maybe drink a recovery drink. My teammates all know that I tend to drink a lot of Baileys, but I didn't drink any that day. It might have been in the pain if I did.
That would have made the time trials 14 and 15 pretty interesting.
Yeah. I was a bit delirious by that point anyway, to be honest. Yeah, so I was maybe acting drunk. I didn't have any Baileys that day. I should have. Maybe I should have had some and would have ridden a bit quicker.
So what? Let's back up a little bit to Hollie and Zwift Team Coalition. Maybe just a little bit of background about real quickly. Like, how did you get involved in Zwift origin story?
So I'm a lockdown cyclist. So I'm a runner. Well, I always said I'm a runner who cycles, but now I feel like a cyclist. So during lockdown, you're only allowed out in the UK for one exercise a day. So I would go running and then I'd go on Zwift because, obviously that's not outside. And then I just got addicted to Zwift, joined BRT, which has now folded, and then eventually found Coalition. And then I've been with them about 1.5 years, I think. So we do time trials and ZRL and the Ladder League and Dirt Racing Series. Big up the Dirt Racing Series, by the way, because those guys are fantastic. And the Ladder League. Yeah, and obviously I would have done TTT today, except I'm coming to join you guys. So thank you for the rest day. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's I'm seeing a few people come into chat that shouting out to Holly, my ride leader, your coalition team coming in. So you got a lot of
I've
love
just
out there
seen
in
it.
the community. Yeah, it's awesome. So I mean,
Guys.
so you've done 15 of them. I mean, what are you going to
Yeah.
do? 16? Would you go for to solidify your record? Do you think you've put a line in the sand now that there's going to be a few females out there who are like, I'm going to go for that record? Now you've kind of made it a record, right?
Yeah. Well, 4. If I'd have known it was, I mean, I think would have been quite easier to do 5 because you can do, some in the morning, have a break, and then some in the evening. But I really want people to break it because records are there to be broken. I know a friend of mine, Gina, she was instantly like, "Yep, challenge accepted," and I'm like, "Yes, go for it. I'll join you."
Oh.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to have a go for it because
I'm not sure.
it's hard, but it's doable.
I'm not sure that this was like necessarily had this much momentum before you did this. Honestly, like wasn't, you made it a thing, Holly. Like the way that you went about this and the way that the community responded to your request for race passes, and now all of a sudden it's like this woman did 15 of these, and now you're the first one to be like, well, you can sail across the ocean. Here you go. And now everybody's going to try sailing across the ocean. Like you're setting a standard that people are like, okay, let's go for it. So that's pretty cool, actually. And I'm not sure that going after multiple, like I've seen people do it for training, and I've seen people do it for like kind of a little bit of I don't feel like there was a brag around this, but a little bit of a like, I did this many TTT, kind of in a day.
Oh, I'm bragging now, believe me. It's everywhere.
Right on. I also
Can you tell me
go ahead, Anna. Sorry.
Has anyone done? I mean, how many TTTs are actually available to do each week? So, has anyone done all the TTTs you could possibly? Because there's a max out, right? Like, you can't be like, I'm going to do 200 of them. Like, there's a max of how many. What is that?
Yeah, and then you'll have to like you do all of them, and then you'll have to like, okay, I did all of them the fastest. That would be like the next thing, right?
Oh
yeah. It's. I got lucky in the fact that it was flat, apart from the aqueduct, which felt like a mountain by the end. But also it was kind of short, about 40 minutes. So like today's one, I think was like 34 kilometers. So it would have taken a lot longer. Don't know what I didn't do it. So, but I was fan viewing. But so I think you'd have to do it on a short course. But also the time zones are all, like I said, there was gaps of about 3 or 4. I don't know. Was it 3 or 4 hours in between in the afternoon and the evening where there wasn't really anything. So I think it's also harder to do it in summer as well because there's less people riding. I mean, maybe in the winter might be a target in the winter. So you'd have to kind of plan it and just like there was one where I was doing it and I realised I only had 45 minutes, but I'd been dropped, which is my choice. And I realised I had to get on with it because I'd only, like I say, only had 45 minutes to do it. And so I did have to go a bit faster on that one to be able to make the next one. And I had like a 2-minute gap. And so the planning of it is quite intense. I think somebody from DIT did do 22, or I might be wrong, 24. I can't remember.
I think there's 28 zones. So would that mean there's 28 opportunities then? I'm not sure if the number
some of them
zones
overlap, I think.
Oh, they do. Okay, gotcha. So then you'd have to really plan it out in order to try and get as many in as you possibly could within certain amounts of time. I mean, now we're getting into the depths of like record breaking.
How you do it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised though. I was talking to Martin yesterday from WTRL, and the TTT is such a popular event. They still have 400 to 500 teams signing up every week in the middle of the Northern Hemisphere summer, which is, I mean, a weekly event that has that many teams still signing up is absolutely crazy. It's pretty cool how much of a following the TTT really has.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And 400 teams, and I rode with 15 of them last week. So yeah,
And
I
this is
think
a
you'd
mainstay
have to
on
get a
your
short flat
schedule,
course.
Holly. Like you do this you do the
Sorry, what?
TTT pretty much like every week. It sounds like this is like a part of your weekly schedule. It seems like.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I usually ride with the ladies from Coalition, and then sometimes Tempest. Although they are Cat C and D, and I upgraded, so so sometimes they just still let me join, and they're lovely. And then ladies from Coalition, they're super, super great, and they tow me up the hills, and I tow them on the flat, and I'm always whinging because if it's a hill, and I'm like, oh god, it's a hill again. But one thing I would say though is I always like. So weight plays a factor in Zwift, obviously, when you're going up a hill, and I always thought, oh, I don't look like a cyclist. I'm not a cyclist. I'm just a runner who's like, addicted to Zwift and things. But actually, like, I don't just don't quit. Like we always have bad races and things, and we like to whinge about down hills, like people getting dropped and things like that. And it's okay to moan because I do, but then always think that you can do this. You focus on your positives and try and oh, I know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's I get what you're trying to say.
Keep going.
Yeah. I think I actually ran a session with a bunch of ladies during the week, actually, where we did Legends in Lava, and the whole session was about. I talked them through coming up to the volcano climb and their mentality, and not giving up, and not, just entering that negative thought where you go, I can't do this, I'm not a climber, I'm not a climber, I'm not a climber, and actually starting to turn that thought around. It's quite interesting because a few of the women got like 1 minute PBs up the volcano climb, literally just from a mindset shift. So I get what you're saying there, Holly. It's a lot of this is, and you would have had that doing this 15 times where you can practice it, right? You can practice your mindset. And I think that's super important. So Holly, what's your recovery? Oh, sorry, you go.
So I was just going to say, like, having your teammates and even people you've never ridden before on Discord telling you can do it, and whoever, if you're ever a DS, you are vital to the races and helping your teammates. And don't ever underestimate encouraging somebody, because it you're right, it does change your mindset, and to keep going and to not think, oh, I've got dropped, and I'll just give up. Nah, don't give up, because you never know how the race is going to end. Just keep at it, and also have fun, because it's so much fun on Zwift, and chatting to your teammates usually about Baileys or Yorkshire. Those are the
you're from Yorkshire, that so people know, like that's where you're actually from. And you actually were at the World Championships, I got my flag.
So... Yeah, in Harrogate, yeah. It was
that
great.
Was before Zwift.
My recovery.
That's the funny thing. It's before Zwift, actually.
Yes, yes. I was there in Harrogate. Didn't even own a bike, so it's really bizarre to actually be riding around Harrogate. And obviously, I know the route. The views, though, they need to sort the views out on Zwift, because the views in real life are so much better. The route is exactly the same, though. Recovery wise.
So Holly, what was it like? I mean, 10 hours plus on a bike. What did you do to recover from that? Were you back on the bike the next day?
No, I did on the Sunday. I did do 80 miles sportive around Yorkshire. And I've got to say, I haven't done any racing since then. I have never been so mentally and physically exhausted after all of that. It's amazing what you can do when you really set your mind to it. I am looking forward to racing with them on the Ladder League next week, so that'll be good.
A little bit of a break. Like it was like, I mean, for a day, 2 days. How many days off the bike did you say it was?
Well, I did the time trials on Thursday, and then I had no cycling until the Sunday when I did the 80 miles, and then I haven't cycled. Well, I commute to work, but it's not very far, so don't really count that. But not done any racing since, and it's been a bit weird, really, because I tend to race like quite a lot, but I know I needed to recover. I've been eating lots of scrambled egg and well, actually, it was my child's birthday yesterday, so I've had lots of cake as well.
There you go. That's the reload.
So cake.
There's the reload. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Holly, thank you so much for coming on and setting a new standard for everybody and getting just awareness of something that you could do. Cause I think a lot of times people, I mean, at least for my team, I do one and then I'm done. So I just, the reality of doing the number of TTTs that you did, but pretty cool. I think also idea to get multiple team environments and getting to know other teams out there. I mean, that must have been a really cool experience. So thanks for opening that up and great job on the accomplishment. Really, really cool. Also say hello to everybody over at Coalition. You guys have that awesome Friday chase race as well that you all do. And I think you get involved in that sometimes.
Nathan, when are you going to come and join us?
Well, Fridays
And you, Anna.
race season are just so difficult. We'll see if we can throw down. Maybe we'll see if we can throw down in the next couple of weeks. I think during peak time, we might be able to find a way to sneak in a chase race or two. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah,
Your chase
7
races
p.m.
are hard. Those are so hard. You guys are flying.
We need
absolutely flying.
Yeah, we need more Cat A's to join Aaron in Cat A because he's usually on his own. So there's also big groups of people. I know he needs a hand because he always pushes every single week, and we always cheer him on and stuff. That's the great thing about all the different categories actually in the chase race because we always encourage each other.
Is that Hunt? Is that who we were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's a good guy. Good guy, and he can hammer. He can definitely hammer. I don't know if I want to show up now.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Holly. Thank you so much for coming. I really, really appreciate that, and we look forward to hearing more about the TTTs and seeing you around the podcasting community. Holly Bergin, Team Coalition.
Thanks.
Yeah, cheers. Well, she's absolutely awesome, and what a
effort!
What an effort! And what I really, really liked about that, two things that are very community oriented, is seeing how the TTT community responded to the request just to join in, how quickly they were receptive of her. And then also I picked up on a little bit of an emotional connection, a pretty strong one to her team and her Zwift community and how much she relies on that as a place of connection for her. That really came through and I just absolutely love to see that.
Yeah, I think, this, and it made me think about our conversation we were having about IndieVelo and Zwift, actually, when she talked about that, is the reason I love Zwift so much is that community element that they've built through the platform. I mean, that's primarily why I go on there. I just absolutely love that. So if you look at strengths, there's a huge strength there in the people who have built this community. So yeah, she totally reinforced that for me. So that was awesome. I think, kudos to her. What a crazy accomplishment. I don't know if I would, I'm like you. I struggle with one TTT. I'd maybe two. Maybe I could do a back-to-back, but I don't know about 15. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, IOC next week, or what do you want to do?
I'll just mention, we can go into a bit more of a dive on the IOC topic. We've got Chris Schwenker coming on next week.
Okay, cool.
To talk through a few things. I know he's been interviewing sort of heads of national federations and stuff, but I did just want to say, because I had been, passed on some info about the upcoming Zwift series and the Singapore event for the IOC sort of Olympic exhibition stuff. It looks pretty cool. So think Worlds format. So it looks like there's 3 short back-to-back races here. The difference, though, is that and I've seen the list of who's going, which is quite cool. So there's, what is it? What's 4 times 4? 16. Looks like 16 athletes going, 8 men, 8 women, and they've been divvied up into teams. So there's Team Lava, Team Fuego, Team Titans, and so they're in another team. And so they've been put into these teams, and it's team against team rather than individual against individual. So I think that makes it kind of cool. I always, look forward as to what that could be. You look forward and go, oh, that's where you get the swag. You can be like, I'm team Titans.
Yeah, that's
I'm
very
Team
esports.
Lava.
That's very
Yeah.
esports. Yeah, big time. And Team Luminosity, Team Liquid, Team whatever. Like you have these in the esports world, and they do a really. There's whole organizations that have a very real commercial product as far as that goes around esports. From that team base. So I think it's pretty cool. And if you saw, Lionel V. Austin and Greg Henderson did like a competition. On the Olympic YouTube channel, actually, up against each other, kind of as a promo. And I definitely had this like make it fun and young esports feel to it, and it might have been a little bit over the top feeling toward that, but I think they did a pretty good job because it's very introductory too, which they totally need to do to
Where
the
is
general
this?
pop.
Sorry, what is it?
Yeah, it's on YouTube actually. It's on the Olympic channel. Zwift retweeted it actually. From the Olympic channel actually. So yeah, definitely go check it out because it had they're doing an introduction to all the esports that they're going to be doing with this event, right? And so Zwift was one of them, and it was one of the shows that they put on specifically around what's going on with Zwift. And they had Lionel and then Greg Henderson do like a sprint up against each other essentially to kind of show what the platform is. So it was pretty cool. It was actually pretty cool.
Awesome.
So,
okay. Well,
yeah, let's do IOC stuff next week then with
next week.
Christopher. I think that's a really good idea that we chat with him too, and we can bring that in as a topic. So, all right, for the fashion show, Pride Kit 2023, and I want to bring up like between all of the Pride Kits that have been on, what do you think? I think this is the best one they've had so far.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. And shout out to Claire Taylor, actually, she's leading a few of the Pride rides. So, yeah, she's been in touch with me and she rates this pretty high as well. I am trying to find a ride I can get on. I keep joining them and then kind of the first one I thought it was on every hour, so then I went to join the next one, was like, oh, it wasn't there. So anyway, I've got to get this kit because I do think out of all of them, this is awesome. I love it kind of just makes me think of like ice cream a little bit, the way it swirls.
It does look like an ice cream swirl. I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So I kind of this is a little bit similar to the kit we had last week where the lines are just like, it's not a typical cycling jersey. So it's kind of nice. It kind of catches your eye. And then they've done a good job there with the Pride on part being in solid in the black. Only thing I would say, and it's just that knowing Zwift fashion, how it looks in game, is they probably should have put Pride on that lower part of the shorts or on the pockets as well. Because otherwise you don't see it. But I'm digging the kit. And I always like a sort of the black shorts with a colorful top. I think it's sort of I actually saw this and was like, oh, this is very like Riot-esque. So like my team Riot, who we don't have a kit, and then there's like I messaged and was like, oh, what's the chance I can get a kit in game? And it was like a very long wait time. I was like, oh, I think I'll just leave it with our stock standard kit. But this is something I'd look at, which is like solid black shorts and then a like burst of color on the top, but with also a bit of black in there. So yeah, really
all the past ones I feel like felt kind of like puzzle pieces rather than like having continuity through them. So what do you give it? 8.5.
8.5 for this one.
Yeah, I'd have to go with, I think it's a high 8s. Yeah, I'm with you on that too. Design is pretty well done. And I guess I'm doing it based off of comparisons from the past too. And like, I just feel like this one was just much, in my opinion, much better done than the Pride kits in the past. Then garage pick of this is really interesting. What is this? I don't even know what is this? What are you doing? What is this?
This is from my depths of like Zwift searching, right? When I'm trying to find like garage stuff to talk about, because I feel like I've gone through all the bikes. But yeah, so this was on a like Zwift Leaks. I think I may be wrong, but I think it was like a James Eastwood, maybe, found this deep in some Zwift code during an update. Now, this is interesting. So this is around picking your gearing. So you can customize your gearing, single, crank set, whatever speed you have, a gearing ratio. Do you want TT style, off-road, climbing, basic? I have never seen this, and I kind of wonder what this is for. So I think there was mention that a while ago when Zwift was talking about potentially, that Tron indoor trainer bike, that you could modulate it and just buy the back wheel part of it. and that would have virtual gearing. It might have been a sort of a software link to that hardware, potentially. I don't know, but I found it quite interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how where exactly that was found, because I haven't seen that leak. I actually haven't seen that. So interesting to see. I wonder what chat thinks about what this will be. I'm gonna customize gearing. Huh. And it's in the garage. That's the interesting thing, is that it's in the garage. And then basic climbing, TT, off-road. Huh. Really interesting.
So, I mean, I guess watch this space. It could be a leak of something that just got trialed and then they didn't release that hardware, so it just has gone away. Or it's something coming up. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, looks like, I feel like Nathan's eyes are showing like we'll just see.
Yeah,
there might be something coming up.
We'll have to see. I'm going to leave it at that. I didn't even notice that was in the show notes, and suddenly, boom, there's an image there. Oh, okay. I guess that's
hello.
on the show.
There we go.
Right.
Well, things are leaked.
Well, if it's out there, it's out there. So there it is.
There we go.
So, yeah, for sure. So, okay. What's happening in the community? Well, I'm going to chat really quickly before we get into what we're doing over the next over the next week or so, over the weekend, etc. We do have new broadcasts that are happening. And if you didn't see this past week, we did a pretty cool pre-show like looking into the TFC OG series. There's the Zwift OG series that is going on throughout the entirety of June. The first week is centered right now around TFC. They're doing Hilly Watopia 2 laps. And at the beginning of the show, we went over the history of broadcasting TFC races. It was kind of cool. We showed the beard video, but we also gave like dates and also showed the progression of the broadcast alongside of TFC, ending with Mad Mondays that are still happening. So pretty cool to see how that's going on. Now this next week is were you a part of the Team Fearless whole deal that was going like at all? Were you around when Team Fearless like launched their yearly women's championships or anything like that? I mean, this is way old school.
Team Fearless was the first team I joined, and I joined it in 2019.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, gotcha. So that's been going on for quite a while. Well, we are going to be doing OG Racing broadcasts, and so that means next week, Wednesday, we'll be covering the Team Fearless one as well. It will be on the London Classic. We are doing the London Classic because that is one of the courses in London that was used for the championships. So it'll be great to do that. Be on the watch out for that broadcast. And then we also have the Women's Racing Series number 3. We are going to be broadcasting that on Tuesdays. So, yes. So that's going to be a lot of fun to be broadcasting. And then on top of that, we're looking toward Yellow in July. I'm still waiting for a little bit of communication to see how things go for some things that are very yellow. So,
Tour de France, Vic, Zwift, the Femmes. I'm so excited. I am so excited, actually, for that stuff. I saw Benji came into chat. I bet he's excited. He'll be prepping. Man, imagine doing a podcast every day for 3 weeks, Nathan. It's tough.
Yeah. I would really, we actually, so early on in ZCL, we had a daily coverage of Zwift. Like we did like a workout or like something alongside of that with Christopher Dawson. Actually, we did it with Dawson and his coaching, and he had data directly from athletes in the Tour de France, and then we would actually have a look and even a ride with some of the data somehow. It was just really interesting. We did, and it was every day of the tour. We did a live show around that. It was really with Dig Deep Coaching, DDC. It was a DDC podcast actually that we did. Way back during the tour. So I can relate a little bit. I remember waking up and be like, okay, we gotta go live again. Here we go. Like it was, yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's next level. Once a week is Still enough. I think we're going to do a bit of prep for once a week. So once every day. Geez, that's insane. What are you up to this week? I'm actually going to be on Zwift probably a bit this weekend, or IndieVelo, because it's my son's birthday. And so we're having like 5 to 6 year old boys coming over.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, I've said to my husband already, I was like, I need like the afternoon off.
So it's like cake and Zwift. Cake and Zwift.
It'll be mental health
cake
rights
for
me.
It'll
be getting on cake and race. I'll be getting out all my like, oh my gosh.
You should make an event. You should make an event called Cake and Race. It's Cake and Race.
I won't live stream that. There might be a bit of throwing up on that one. So I'll probably do that. I've got what else is going on? I run a workout on Zwift on a Thursday, so I'll be doing that. And I guess just waiting around to talk to the surgeon and then getting a plan for after that. If anyone wants to join me on a return to health, once I do it, I'll start. Maybe people can join me for some easy workouts and stuff.
Yeah, you'll be fine. I mean, I hear it's a really easy surgery, so good. I'm glad you're getting that taken care of. Well, for me, what am I doing? I'm training because I was going to do Epic Fest. It's actually on our website, and I feel bad. Epic Fest is this huge charity event, actually, that one of Vision's main sponsors, Bora Teamwear, developed in order to help build trails and give money back to the cycling community. Essentially, they've been raising a ton of money for that in order for building trails up in that area. They gifted it to the Berkey people who help run the Schwamagon and now put on Epic Fest. And they have a 2-day event weekend we were going to be doing, but it just doesn't fit with our scheduling with kids and family and everything this weekend. So we're training instead. But a big shout out to Epic Fest and everything they're doing up there. They've got big prize money. It's something that I really appreciate with these kinds of events, for bringing in professional riders to support that side of it. Like, they're supporting every side of the mountain bike / gravel movement that you could in all the right ways. And I really like what they're doing about it. And then putting money back into the development of the sport through building trails and stuff. And so really cool what they're doing in the North Woods of Wisconsin there. But since we're not doing that, we're going to train like we did. So today is kind of like I think I'm recovered enough now at this point to start actually training after the weekend. And we did a big base ride the day after our race, actually, on Monday. So I might be doing SST long today to see if I can push the levels of it. Like, I'm going to try and push it up. Yeah.
That big base ride, was that the one you took to go get those nachos that you had the picture of that Gabby was eating?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Those nachos looked so amazing. I was like,
well, if you're ever in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee market is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Like, it's got a lot of different things that you can get down there, but there's a lot of little higher end places around there too. So definitely like an area. It's on the east side of Milwaukee, right around Milwaukee Institute of something. Anyways, there's a really nice Mayat, I think it is, that's down there. Super college town area, tons of cool little shops and stuff. So I've done for a long time. This is the first time I took Gabby on it. That's been one of my go-to base rides is ride all the way to the lake and then ride all the way back home, because the lake is Lake Michigan, one of the largest lakes in the world, right? And so Milwaukee's right there. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, tons of fun. And then so obviously recovery. So SST. What else did I get? Now I want to talk about all the food. There was this place called Latte that had spanakopita, like a spanakopita, but it was so it's feta cheese, spinach, and a flaky bread. Really flaky bread.
I'm hungry.
But they made it into a pretzel wrap. It was it was this interesting pretzel wrap. And then I got this amazing honey. No, it was agave and some sort of bee pollen in a latte with oat milk and a couple of shots. It was
stop talking, Nathan. I'm oh my God, my stomach is rumbling. That is just so amazing.
Yeah. So then we rode home, and Gabby almost dropped me because I was on the mountain bike, and I think we got into a little bit of a husband and wife fight a little bit, where it was there was a little bit of tension on that ride, and it was and all of a sudden Gabby was I was like, are we going hard? Like, oh, okay. Like, and I'm on the mountain bike and she's probably like zone 3, 4. And I'm like hanging onto her wheel, like, oh my gosh, like what's happening here? But because all of a sudden, it was supposed to be this base ride. And I come back and I'm like, I was 52 minutes in zone 4. What happened here? Like,
what are you doing? Oh my God. Yeah. No, actually, that's one thing. My husband and I, he just got his gravel bike. So we are going to play, I think this is an American term. We're going to play hooky and go gravel riding.
Hooky. There's a couple things that
next
can
week.
So you're gonna.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So
that's a thing. Is that an American thing? I get that from movies.
Yeah, playing hooky
like,
is like you skip out. Yeah, you skip out of class.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah. Totally it. So, okay, SST recovery / power work tomorrow. Crazy intervals on Saturday. Some probably ERG workout or get outside and do like hot laps somewhere. And then I think we're going KOM hunting on Sunday. I'm planning a route, and I think we're going to look at the wind and see where the wind's going, and we're going to plan a Strava route that we can find. Because we did one like a few months ago down to Lake Geneva, and we grabbed a bunch on the way home. So we're going to go out steady and then like really drain the tank, find a coffee shop or something, eat a bunch of food, and then smash every KOM on the way home. So yeah. So that's the next 4 or 5 days anyway. So this is like a rare time where I really have planned everything out. But Gabby was like, "What are we doing this week?" And like earlier this week, and I was like, "I don't know." Like, and then like I haven't really planned it out, but I have like an ATP in my head. I have a annual training plan like sitting around back there, and I kind of have an idea. But then I kind of do the chaotic coach fill in because like Gabby doesn't pay me for whatever, like for coaching. So I don't have like I can like do it more by the seat of my pants, which like she's like, this week we need to know. We're knowing what we're doing. Anyways, all right, there it is, everybody. Next week, Christopher Schraker, we'll be talking a whole lot of stuff with him. It sounds like he's been chatting with National Federation, some more esports stuff, obviously, for next week, and we'll chat a little bit about what's happening from what we know about the IOC. This has been episode number 47 of The Wrap. You can catch all these episodes over at ZwiftCommunityLive.com or go ahead and search The Wrap anywhere that you do download your podcasts. Obviously, we've been live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. If you want to watch the live stream back. Anna Russel Nathan Guerra signing off. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week for episode number... What episode are we going into? Number 48. As always, everybody, right on.